Snell,
Here.
Barbara Ermeling,
Here,
Brian Ermeling,
right now.
excuse me.
He's absent, Valerie.
Okay, thank you. Gerndt,
Here.
Jordan,
He's in Montana.
That's
right, yes, he did mention that. Minell,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
White,
here.
and Zagami.
Here.
Okay, sounds like we got a quorum. We'll accept the motion to adopt the minutes, approve the minutes of the previous meeting. I assume you all got a chance to look at the minutes from online. And would like to make a motion or have a question or correction?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, Barb moves to adopt. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Brian, Bob. Okay, Bob seconds. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, first item is the revised facilities design. Is our architect here tonight?
He's on remotely, I believe.
Okay, he's online with us or?
Yes.
Okay,
Valerie, Brian Ermeling just arrived.
And John Ziegler's here also.
Oh, and John Ziegler's here too.
Okay, thank you.
so anybody want to take up the issue of the design review that we talked about last time? I think we got most of the questions answered. Is there any lingering questions on the design review that anybody wants to get into?
Was this sent out earlier?
We just received it yesterday. I think it was put up on the cloud drive today.
I
Can you
couldn't.
go through any,
I couldn't either.
I didn't see it.
I don't know if John wants to summarize what kind of options he's
Yeah.
put before us.
Yeah, I'm available if everyone can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the plan where the training room in the upper right, there's two options of this floor plan, so I'll just kind of go through this. This is showing the training room being reduced down to one room. Slide over to the right.
Left part to the other.
Yeah, there you go. So remember the lunch training room had multiple, it was a multiple, space that was divided by another wall. So we condensed that as the committee had talked about. It still has a separate little kitchenette break area. So if something's going on in the lunch training, people can still go in that room. So that room has been reduced down. The office for this was within that area was slid down to plan south. So if you can move the plan up a little bit. So that street foreman office is now, as you see on this plan, right in that location.
I like that.
The locker, and we slide the office plan to the right a little bit. We talked about trying to come up with a way of creating some more unisex type showers, bathroom areas. So if you see in the middle of the, right where it says men's locker room, to the plan north of that, we created a new unisex shower room that has a toilet and a sink in it. So that's universal for any situation that may happen. This way we got rid of all the showers in the men's room and all of them in the women's. We also created another just unisex shower room in the upper left of the women's. Now, if we want, we could look at having still direct access from the men's or women's directly into these. It just gets to be a locking issue, but we can discuss that. But this way, it's condensed them down to two smaller rooms and getting rid of those individual showers in each appropriate men's and women's locker rooms.
I like it.
Okay.
Just to highlight the locker numbers and how that all evolved. So if you look at the men's locker room and look at the urinal area specifically, Michael, can you move your cursor in that area?
Yep.
So
go ahead.
you're
See that?
seeing, you're seeing the urinals. The lockers that are just to the right of those are the lockers that are associated with what we call the office lockers. So that's all the square footage associated to the office lockers. So each one of those white squares you're seeing has two lockers, an upper and a lower. That's associated to the office staff. All the rest is associated with field staff.
Mhm.
And to just make sure everybody understands what we've done with the locker room for the field staff is the larger square is their dirty field, boots, car hide, all their gear that literally goes out in the field. That can be musty smelling, whatever. The smaller piece adjacent to that is a clean locker for their personal clean clothes. So that's how the locker room is set up. And this is based on kind of 30 years of trending from other facilities and reviewing and doing programs of what they recommend doing and with staff input. So that's kind of how we landed on these locker rooms. The count for the men's needed 38 of those. We have 38 in the men's. How we arrived at the women, currently the field staff is 2. What we did is we said, okay, for the office staff, we went 50-50. So we needed 14 total of those lockers. We went 7 women, 7 men. For the field crew, we did 38. That was the total number needed. And then what we did for the 2 for the women, we rounded up and put 6 additional on top of that 2 for a total of 8 field lockers for the women. So that gets you the footprint of what you're seeing there. Michael, if you can go to the next first floor option plan.
That looks like the previous one.
I think there should be, are there 3 total? Well, this is, oh yeah, this is the same, similar option, but where we left the streets in that in the lunch break room, 2 different rooms. So if we land on, we still want to keep those 2 different rooms. That's still how that configuration worked. But we got rid of the square footage down below and condensed the men's and women's locker rooms. But I think the prior option we were showing is kind of what the board was leaning towards, having just one large lunch training room and not 2 separate rooms.
Yeah.
But that strangely looks like the draft.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it still kept the streets in that area because the square footage wasn't, there was no reason to take more square footage down in the green. We took it out of the red of the break lunchroom. And then if you slide all the way over to the left, there was some question on we had an extra vestibule entry off the left side, which we got rid of that. It was right there above the utility clerk. So that was revamped and changed and created a future office to the bottom blue there. And that's constant on both plans that we were showing you. If we want to go to the upper level, there's also 2 layout plans that on the upper level, pretty much the same as what you saw last time, but these integrated the break room, a smaller little break area, I'll call it. So if you zoom in, you're right into the middle, you'll see, can you zoom out to the whole plan?
Oh, sure.
So in this plan here, remember all the upper blue is kind of a future growth area. When we came up that main stairwell, we moved the little check-in window there, and then just to the plan south of that is the new little break area that we created for the second level that was requested. So it's adjacent backside of plumbing for the bathrooms on this. And then if you want to go look at the next plan. same thing, configuration, it's in the middle. Was there a third plan upstairs? There was a different layout of it was up there a second ago, Michael, maybe sheet number 3 or 4? That one there. This is another one that was created where right off the center conference room, you see that comes up that atrium, that little break area is right off of there. So we thought, maybe it's nice, it's adjacent to a conference room. If you wanted to support the conference room out of that break room too, it was right adjacent to that. So there's some multiple schemes creating that break area on the upper level.
I have a question on the first page. John, on those unisex, and one of them you have a stool and the sink, and the other one you don't have a stool and the sink. Why?
Well, we talked about that, to try to keep the numbers down. We thought if it was a situation where it was a transgender or some situation where neither men's or women's locker room was being used, that would be the shower used. Otherwise, if I'm a female, I'd be in the female locker room. If I'm going to go shower, I take my stuff and I go in individual shower room. Same thing with the men. So it's just being cost conscious. We're open. That was the reasoning why.
Not quite convinced because they go together. Let's put it that way. But
yeah,
and I'm not sure.
And that's what I was.
Really.
That's why I was saying, Hussein, maybe there's a door off the women's locker room that goes directly into that one too.
Yeah, that may.
We're open to suggestions. I'm just saying, I just wanted to show you kind of what we're talking about.
Right. Because usually they go together. I mean, even if it is unisex, still you have the sink and the stool in there. And unless you're just going to put a sign in there just for a shower, that's it.
Yep. Yeah, the question would be, do you keep it integrated there, or do you see up right to the upper right, there's another unisex bathroom or do we integrate I'm just thinking, I think I've even been asked the question, well, the number of toilets you start at, or do we integrate one of these and make it one of the showers with the toilet and sink, and then get rid of the second one down below? I guess that's discussions we can have.
I think it makes sense to have the stool and the sink in that shower, but again.
Okay, down where we're showing it, Hussein?
Right, you're just showing a shower in there. And that's, as I said, you can put a sign on the door, say this is just a shower. So people don't make a mistake to get in there, assume there is a stool and the sink in there, which is.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I have a suggestion. This is Aaron Nelson.
That's the first floor.
Could you take it to image 5 or slide 5? And
Second floor.
right there. And we've been dealing with this over the years. We had in our administration building, we had this kind of these open areas where you had multiple employees working in one area. And so, a couple of times over the years, we just we put up walls, create more, private working space. And I noticed you have some kind of an open area, the building inspector and the planning tech and so on. It probably wouldn't be much extra money if you just right at the front end created extra office spaces for that department. Instead of just having
that would be deviating from the plan. I mean, I'm open to that. They were up in the large open office area, but yeah, I think they work hand in hand. This isn't abnormal to have an open work environment for people, but that's discussion.
There's a version of
Just
that.
Where you guys go with it, it's up to you. I'll support either way, but that's just my, just seeing what has happened in our office and how we've tried to put people take these from these open work areas to now more so putting individuals, even in some situations we have two individuals sharing an office. That just gives more privacy than, a wide open area like that.
I think when it's open area like that, usually it's a little bit more noisier because people start talking. And also, as you said, there is no privacy there. There is a pro and con to it. When there is no privacy, then people don't make a personal call or they don't do your personal work in there. But if there is no, it's all open. But if it is more private, then those things can happen also.
So we can move on. That was just my suggestion.
Gary, on page 1, were we talking about a break room for the shop employees and a separate break room for the office staff?
No, I guess.
You mean the break rooms that are on the second floor?
No, the first floor.
There's one area for
Buddy, right there.
that's
Where is it?
to use that
The
break
bottom
room.
right, pink.
It was talked about.
So you're gonna have the shop guys walk in through that conference break area to go in to take lunch? Or the training room?
Be in the training room.
That mainly is their room to take lunch.
So that's my point. If you're training, you got shop people coming in through the training room to get into a break room?
It'd be the other way around.
So
Yeah, I mean, we can relook at that. That's the way we had it originally. Remember, 2 separate rooms, but it was discussed to have it one large room.
I think you gotta have double access, what you think?
I think you'd want to be able to get into the
You know,
kitchen, if you will, without going into
Without going
the.
through training.
you don't want the guys trampling on carpet or whatever you're gonna have in there.
And
Greasy
that
feet.
training room could be used by Everest Metro as well as fire. It wouldn't have to be just us. Everest Metro could host training. We could host training for other municipalities. We get somebody coming in. And by having them separate would be a benefit, I think. Also, when you do have your elections going on in that multi-purpose room or whatever you want to call it,
Or
the
at
guys
Dale's
are gonna have
Weston,
to, find a different way to get in and out.
or at Dale's Weston Lanes, yeah,
Well, if Dale's Weston Lane, Dale could sell tomorrow and we'd be out of it.
yep.
I mean, I think there's maybe another third option where you look at this version, this foreman office comes down, maybe this wall moves down somewhere, and you can still reconfigure how this room looks, but
Well,
keep that concept maybe.
don't work with this one, go to the other one and reconfigure that one. Because that one's close, you just need another entrance, I mean, can't you enter into that from the garage, from the green? And
What is
I see it,
I believe these are refrigerators, right, John?
okay, 5 for.
Yeah, we have plenty of room to revamp that. We'd slide it over. The voting equipment can go to the right. Let us rework the plan. Yeah, that's not a problem. The voting equipment doesn't need to land right there.
Yeah.
We can get that break right off that hallway and it'll work nicely and put the voting equipment in the corner.
Why couldn't the sink be where the refrigerators are? I mean, how many refrigerators do you need? We have one here now, right? And,
Well, they're not all refrigerators. They're vending machines and refrigerators.
Okay.
oh,
They got pizza oven, you got
Yeah,
microwave.
I think they can refigure that with that plan right there.
right.
Yeah, we'll work with this. We'll get the kitchen over and put the voting equipment in a far right closet, have a separate entrance or an entrance off the lunch train. I think it'll work well.
Right.
Yeah,
I think probably the main thing is to make sure that's a hard surface floor, so we don't have people, even if they have to go around and come into the door from the opposite side across the training room,
No,
not currently.
yeah.
Right,
You know, it's not that you wanna interfere with the training, the employees don't wanna interfere with the training.
Right.
They're not gonna wanna walk there, they're not gonna go get their lunch if that's the way to get in.
Right.
Okay,
okay, so we got consensus that we need a separate entrance from the workshop, the shop area into the break room.
Right.
Okay,
However that looks, as long as they're not traipsing through the
right,
larger training room.
direct access from the shop.
Right. That'll work it out.
What's
All right.
next?
Keep going.
Good point.
keep going, John.
No, I was done. You guys were in the question.
Okay,
So I think moving the street foreman to that lower corner makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yeah, that takes that room and squares it off so much better.
Yeah.
Locker room doesn't have
Yep.
Right.
So much better.
Could you blow that foreman's room up a little bit?
It's hallway? I don't know.
You can drive a car through
Yeah, they're big.
there. Is there an option to put a window in that foreman's room to observe the shop or not?
From that side.
Yeah,
Well, you would only see the parking garage. I mean, you would only see one aspect.
Yeah, we'd put a window there.
That looks like a
Ideally, there
window.
would be a window there.
That looks like a big window.
It's not a window right now. There's a whiteboard there right now, but we would put a window there.
yeah, I think that would be useful
Right.
7.5,
for the
yeah.
supervisor, foreman.
What, the width?
A window so that shop foreman can see into the
Yes.
parking garage area.
Yeah,
It's either that or have a video monitor so you can watch.
yeah. Okay,
I think it's a good idea, that you kept the boot wash because
Yeah.
it's a chance for the staff to get their boots somewhat clean before they traipse through the rest of the
Right.
building.
okay, other concerns from last time?
John, there's a question about the width of the hallways.
875.
755.
It's about 7
Are
feet.
you saying, you thinking that's too?
Is there a code on that, John? The width of the hallways?
That hallway's the largest, because right there, we're gonna have the most circulation of people coming. So that's
Okay.
the largest, one of the in the area that, you got all staff in the morning coming and going, so that's the reason that hallway's set that size.
Okay,
If you scroll to the left, you'll see it starts choking down as you go into the office.
oh, yeah, yeah,
6 feet.
yeah, that makes
6
sense.
feet? Okay.
John, I had one other question or thought today. These 3 bathrooms off the main entrance, would there be a possibility to maybe move them under the stairs a little bit to give the boardroom a little more space and square it off?
Yeah, we can look at that, Michael.
Okay.
And right now you have those as men's, women's, and unisex? Would there be a thought that they all, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Mark, we'd name them all unisex.
Yeah, okay. Because everybody's going to unisex, and as long as they lock, you're good. All the grocery stores are doing the same thing. Okay, good.
Okay,
Do we need to go back to the second floor?
I have a question, one last question on this level here. If you move the 3 restrooms that are on the right-hand side underneath the staircase, would it make more sense to move the staircase to the other side? Or not?
No, the whole point was to give that boardroom more room.
Oh, no, I'm not talking invading the boardroom.
Oh.
Like it's hanging from the wall on the left-hand side. Why wouldn't it hang from the wall on the right-hand side?
Well, I was gonna,
Because you have, it takes.
Yeah,
up that
you
much-
mess up all the corridor access pieces.
Right, yeah.
Okay,
and then you get a second door into the backside of the boardroom too.
True. True.
I was thinking,
And you don't hear people flushing.
that square would look something maybe like this. Because here it's not gonna be tall enough, but once you get to the top of the stairs, you should be able to tuck it in. And then this wall maybe just moves down here, so it's in one spot.
I think that's a good idea. Just that first bathroom is gonna be a little shorter, but other than that,
Yeah, but I mean, yeah,
just a joke. What do you have for height on that stairwell, John, for a second floor ceiling? Hey, John?
Oh, yes, sorry, I was muted. Yep.
That's right. What's the height of the second floor for the ceiling?
Right now, I think we're at about floor to floor 14 feet.
So you might be able to get both bathrooms, 2 bathrooms over there.
We'll be able to get all 3 in there.
All right.
You're gonna be at close where you're at, and we'll do enough, just have enough, because that door leading into the southern part, that door can move down.
Okay.
Does one of those 3 bathrooms have to be ADA?
They all are.
They
They're
all
all
are.
gonna be ADA.
Yeah, they have to.
They're all gonna be compliant.
So that, Michael, that line that you have there, are you taking into that, what is that room, a conference?
It go into the workroom, it's like the copier, so it might short, but this future office maybe could, as John, I guess, mentioned, we took out this vestibule, so that created an extra office on this side with that vestibule being removed. So,
Is this plan still have the drive-up window, or is that gonna,
Yeah.
is that
well,
going?
so the drive-up window still would be
Right
dropping
there,
off in
yep.
here.
Okay,
The vestibule is for another entrance to the outside. And I guess we have, an entrance up here and there's an entrance then.
Where's employees parking then? To the left.
Currently,
Employee parking?
Oh, up front too.
In
would be
front,
in front.
Yeah,
north.
If you go on the,
or west.
West side.
Yeah, west side.
yeah.
They would come through the shop and then through that hallway that's the widest there? or-
No, they come through the front door.
You'd come in through this door here
Yeah, okay,
Oh, the side door, okay.
and just,
okay.
straight down.
access controlled, of course.
Yeah.
Any changes in the shop?
I think it helps to have those actual footprints of the apparatus in there, so we can see, rather than just a number, we can actually see how much space that takes up.
Yeah.
And it's full.
With the existing equipment you have now,
Correct, yep.
so expansion for what?
So there's 2 spots here that aren't numbered. 1 spot over here, but then this also has 0 equipment stored then out at Ryan Street. So we still have that facility, which we use during the summer for, a dump truck and end loader is usually out there. So there is some expansion still.
My question is to John, this is Dwayne, if there need to be expansion of garage in the future, would it go to the north?
Good question.
Structurally, what I'm looking at structurally, would it be easy to expand to the north?
No, that wall on the right-hand side, the north-hand side, is non-load bearing. The joists go north and plan north and south, east and west. So that wall, you could actually technically move that precast wall in the future.
And then expand to the north?
Correct, the north to the right, correct, yep.
That's, so, I mean,
North facing right here?
Yes,
Okay.
and how much room do you have between there and the driveway?
I don't have that number right offhand. Randall's on the line with me. I'll have him check that and he can get it to us in a couple minutes from our office.
But I'm saying.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Right now, our site plan has 50 feet in between there for the existing, shown in gray.
How far to the future road, Randall? The ghosted one?
That is 170 feet, give or take.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is to look at your future expansion of the garage, that you may want to adjust your site plan more to the south to handle that. But you gotta look at all what it'll affect for the whole area. I'm just bringing it up for future.
Yeah, Dwayne, if you look at the screen, this kind of dashed line would be a future driveway if we,
Oh, okay, that's parking in there. Okay, that's fine. That works good. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's 170 feet, as Randall said.
That's pretty good size.
That's very good. That's good.
So that would just call for moving the driveway and that would accommodate it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
What? The driveway?
That's my feeling. Why don't you do it right away?
Yeah, why do we want to tear that out later?
Yeah.
John, did you hear that? Why
Yeah,
not
we
put
can
that,
implement that. Yep.
yeah, that driveway should just go to the right now.
Leave it right away and then leave that green space.
No, but isn't that taking over the parking though that's in there? Or is that,
That's future parking too.
No, no, that doesn't affect anything.
So that future pavement in the back wouldn't have to be done either, just a straight road like it is in the front?
Yeah,
And-
we're,
Yep.
you know, we'd be adding like 100 foot, 30 foot, you know, so it wouldn't be an issue.
I think that'd be beneficial for keeping a green space open there.
Yeah.
yeah,
That, you got a salt shed down the bottom right,
Mhm.
and then what's that, the pink one along the back line?
This one,
Yep.
that'd be a lean-to
Oh, like a
storage for like
lean-to?
our pipes or even,
Okay.
topsoil.
Okay,
So you got expanded for a salt shed too then?
Correct.
and to the left, you have a fuel island?
Currently, yes.
Are we just gonna not talk about that, or are we gonna talk about it?
What's that, the fuel island?
Yeah,
let's talk about that because that was a little contentious last time. We do need to have consensus on that fuel,
First of all, who's all reusing it?
right? Dwayne, why don't you take that discussion, Dwayne?
No?
Because
Okay.
you're the guy that's got experience with public facility fuels versus offsite.
Well, I understand that you are using the existing fuel site here for all departments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mike can help me. Is that the plan here then, to use this fuel site for all the vehicles?
Hold on a minute, one at a time. Dwayne, go.
For, Dwayne, is this also for Metro PD and Safer? Do they also use it?
Everest Metro currently uses the fuel, Safer does not.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay, I'm looking for who the users are.
Well, okay, I will save my comments for later, sir.
Go ahead.
Well, I assume this is going, excuse me, that's not a good thing to say. I'll correct myself. I imagine that the fuel island will be subterranean for the tanks, or are they above ground?
You don't want them underground.
you're gonna want what?
The tanks will be underground if you're gonna have a station here.
I don't agree.
That's what
I don't agree. They made us have them above ground. Every one of our facilities is above ground. And, much more workable. You have to have a confinement,
A bit.
thing around it.
Yes, yes, you do.
Yeah, you do. I said you do.
Yeah, what we would do here, if they would go above ground, they would be vaulted tanks that are double wall tanks, and the dispensers would be mounted right on them. So we do them
That raises the bigger question is, do we want the fuel on site or off-site contracted? That's really the discussion here, not whether they're above ground or subterranean.
Yeah.
So let's get into that.
Well, I've done a lot of work on this. And there is hardly any fuel at trucking places because they contract. They have more places to fuel. The postal service in this area uses Quick Trip, and the Marathon County Sheriff's Department uses Quick Trip. And I've probably scared 4 or 5 deputies because I walk up to them and ask them how it's working. The postal workers don't seem to care. And they said it's a dream. They don't have to go in, they don't have to do nothing, they don't have to sign nothing. They each have their own cards, boom, and they're gone. And, we get to use their bathrooms instead of coming in here. We get to go and get a snack. And to be honest, how many locations we have? And that's if we use Quick Trip. 6 in this area? You don't have to come back here, especially the police officers. Safer's already using Quick Trip. And plus, we're gonna save all that traffic and all that area back there coming in at night.
I'm gonna give you my input.
Yeah.
We have Wex cards. And I don't direct my employees to any specific gas station. I want them to go to the closest one.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know you had something
So,
like that.
yeah,
Okay.
my guys are
Mhm.
out in Weston here. I'm not gonna force them to come all the way into town just to a specific, because it's a waste of
Oh,
fuel.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Wex cards, if you carry Wexcart in your vehicle and it's assigned to the vehicle, it's up on the dash or up on your visor. You take it out, you put the mileage in it and your employee identification number. And you don't do nothing with a receipt. You don't ask for a receipt, it comes in corporate. You get the mileage for the truck, who signed it, who put the fuel in. And you know what, you get the vehicle to the closest one, and our off-road stuff, what we do, we put out for bid every year. How much fuel is gonna be, we give them a guesstimate about a fuel volume that we'll use. They deliver it to us on every site we're at. We don't touch it, I can't pay my guys money to be fueling equipment. They come in with a high pressure, they're dumping it. And if they're not, we're working on a site or we're working at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning, the fuel guy comes in, piece of equipment tracks over there, everybody else stays busy. When they see him moving, the other one goes over there, he gets fueled, everybody stays productive. So we don't have guys, they gotta grease their equipment, but we don't have guys pulling up to a fuel tank with a 12 volt, 500 gallon tank. We do have that as well on sites, and then we have them fill that. But we'll then ask for a gas pump, so it's faster, it'll fill it faster. Portable gas pump on it, a gas engine, I should say, that pumps the diesel, and so.
What do we have out here? Diesel and,
We have diesel and unleaded.
you don't have off-road though?
Our off-road equipment gets the diesel.
Okay.
So if we followed that concept, how would that work practically, given our site location with the fuel stations around the village? I mean, where are they gonna wind up? And is that what we want? Closest one would be Quick Trip, I presume?
Well, the store, Quick Trip, if you can use a Wex card, I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, I know.
You could do stores, you could do
Nationwide.
Quick Trips,
You go
anywhere.
nationwide, it don't matter what community and what city you're in, it don't matter what you're doing.
We're so concerned, with the snow, with that salt drain, that we have to have it over here, so we bought a piece of equipment to bring it here. And we have to fill it here and stuff, but, so that the guys don't track all the way over to county to get it. Individually, yet our snowplows have to come back here to fuel on a big event. That's a big deal. Here they are up in the neighborhood and there's a gas station here, but they gotta track all the way back here to get fuel again.
They're gonna stop at the gas station to get a snack or
Anyway,
bathroom anyway.
yeah, and use the bathroom.
I guess during a snow event, we fill up before or the night before. They don't end up having to fill up in between.
Right.
But they do come back for salt.
That's what I was gonna ask Michael, how many times I would assume you guys plan really well, you're full in the morning, they could run all day long without fueling up, is that correct?
Yeah, unless there's a super wet, heavy snow where, they're.
They probably have to come back for salt and sand anyway.
Correct, yeah.
So I could tell you, our plan is that our new facility is, we're putting 2 tanks in there. We're not installing, if you put them on a trailer, you can wire them, direct wire up to them, and they have sensors in them. You don't call, you don't have to have anybody, a human be responsible. They're wireless directly to the fueling supplier. He knows when the tank's getting low, his guy just puts it on his route. So if you guys wanted to just put 2 portable tanks in there and not mess with a big expense, they'll come and fuel that thing and you don't have to do nothing with it. And then you could put out for bid every year. Some years you win, some years you lose, but last year we saved $50,000 on fuel. So.
The village has a distinct advantage because they're tax exempt. So the fuel is pretty reasonable as far as I recall.
Brian?
I heard something about the off-road equipment, but I couldn't catch what it was about and how it works.
Michael probably could explain that. Here, aren't you go over that again off-road?
In what reference? Was it concerning Michael or myself?
I'm thinking, do you take an end loader and drive into Quick Trip, or do you take the run grader? Do you take the excavator and drive it into?
No, they'll fuel you on site. They'll come right to your job site, fuel you on site. And or you could do the same thing in the yard and not put permanent tanks that are, they'll actually fill a portable tank right there. And they got sensors in those portable tanks that you don't have to call or anything. They know when they're getting low. So they'll just come back and fuel them up. So you could, any one of those fuel suppliers.
Anybody will do that.
And those are primarily diesel, right? For the
Diesel,
off-road?
yes. Diesel or gas.
Or gas.
What
Yes.
size tanks are you talking about?
500 or 1,000.
And is there a limitation on the size of those for portable? In terms of what you can, how much you can have?
Speak up a little, Keith, I can't hear you.
Is there a limitation on the size you can have?
Well, how much would you go through in a day?
Well, I'm
I mean, we have,
asking.
I believe our diesel's 1,000 gallons right now, so, I mean, it'd be comparable to what we have.
Yeah, it would be no issue. And I don't, so you have somebody that's on contract right now that fills?
Correct, yeah.
And is it remote censored already?
No, they come on every Monday, and then starting in winter, they come Monday or twice a week.
Okay. There's real easy it's a level sensor.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. When we used to use Reeser, now we use, I can't think of the name of the company that we use, but.
Senate?
No, I don't.
Condon?
We use Senex out of Medford, but are we bidding that? Are we contracting out every year?
Oh.
And we've been with Reeser over 5 years, probably longer,
What contract?
but we have no contract.
Down that road.
Correct, yeah, I mean,
No contract and we don't bid it. And we don't actually check pricing. So if we're gonna have fuel on this site, we gotta do a much better job handling it and managing it.
I personally think you should,
Senex, Heartland.
Dwayne, go ahead.
personally think that you should have fuel on the site, like Gary's talking about off-road, and the rest goes to a different gas station, have the card.
There's no reason why a guy should have to drive
No.
all the way from the other side of town back here to get fuel out of a tank right here.
I
No
use-
reason for it.
I used to,
Especially law enforcement stuff.
And here's what we got our lead guys, or like you guys don't have that many crew guys, right? But our guys carry an off-road right in their wallet, and that's for anything off-road. Otherwise, every vehicle, like a truck or, you know, the excavators are all filled usually remotely off, because they come right to your site, right? We'll tell them, hey, we just moved, we got 6 pieces of equipment, we're on this job site, our guy will call you every night, right? If he needs to get fuel, because then they don't have a remote monitor in our equipment, right? So if we say, okay, we want to be fueled every day, he's there every day, same time, just. And then the guys will fuel up, and he does it because he's got the high pressure pump. But the loaders and such, if our guys are out plowing, first gas station they need to stop, they'll just stop, and they got a Wex off-road card, they put it on there, and you identify the unit number you're on.
you can get a loader through a diesel truck stop, you can get a grader through them, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they have it out here at this one.
Yeah, I mean,
The visibility for the officers would be excellent too, to be out there fueling.
I used to have fuel sites on site and they're paying, I think you're better off not having them.
That's why we stayed away from it, because all the regulations and inspections and all the rest of the crap. But yeah.
You got enough regulation with your salt shed.
Okay, it sounds like from the guys who have done this, that we're better off without everything on site, fuel wise.
I have a,
Any major objections to that approach? Lauren?
I have a question, so,
This is Aaron Nelson. I would agree with that assessment. We buy our fuel. We have probably about 10, 15 vehicles, and it's all bought off-site or whatever through Quick Trip mostly. But I'd like to note that when you set up the account, we're like the village of Weston, we're able to buy that fuel, and it is tax exempt, so we don't have to pay the federal tax on it.
right, we did that when we fueled that Quick Trip too. I have a question for,
I'm also, sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Garrett.
Go ahead, Lauren.
That requires a wire system out to the parking lot where you would park this trailer, or?
Well,
I would assume it has to have power.
wherever they decide, it depends upon if you're gonna have electric pumps or if you're gonna have gas. It's nice because then you don't have to fuel, like our remote ones that we have on trailers. We require them to have a gas pump on them. So it's just basically a transfer pump. Right?
I personally don't think you need to have anything there, because of the, you got a couple of graders, loaders, you can get them done within the city of the stations that are here. I wouldn't even monkey with having any gas fuel at all on the site. That's my personal opinion because of what the technology is today. And Mike, you gotta tell me you got a vehicle that's larger than the grader.
Yeah, well, I guess my only question is, our excavators and, those pieces of equipment, I mean, unless we have,
Do you have them on trailers?
we do, but,
Grader.
I mean, the grader now, but the excavators, we have trailers for, we got a rubber tire excavator we drive. I guess,
Hey, group, if I could throw out a comment just over just what this is a very topic that comes up on every project we do. What we a lot of times will do just to help everybody make a decision is I can work with Michael and Keith to kind of pros and cons, kind of put how much time we feel is going to be saved and how much time we're going to be spent. It's a very easy bid package that we a lot of times will put in it. Just because we bid it doesn't mean the village has bought it. So I recommend us doing these time studies to see where we're going to spend extra time, where we're going to save time, and actually still bid it and analyze it at that time to see if it makes dollar sense whether you have them. I throw that out there. That's what most of our clients end up doing, because then it's truly, they know that fuel islands cost them X, we're saving this or we're spending this, and make the decision that way. But that's just, I'm just throwing it out there to help the conversation.
That makes sense.
That's fine. That's fine.
So we're gonna move forward with putting it in the plan for now, but understanding that we're not necessarily going that direction based on what the analysis shows as applied to our operation, okay? So there's no definitive answer on it yet, but we'll reserve that question for later and understand that offsite may be the best option. Okay, is that good enough for now? All right, let's move on. We're still on facilities design. Any other areas that we need to include? Brian?
Sorry? No.
I'm not sure if it belongs here or I did the proposed new FAQ and sent you and Mr. Maloney and Mr. Donner. I'm very interested in hearing what's in the design now for conservation, resource conservation, energy efficiencies, the possibility of future solar, and I would appreciate hearing from staff and architect what's in the design now and what's possible for the future. If we want to deal with this as part of an FAQ, that's fine.
Go ahead, John.
I believe that's Brian.
Yes.
Yeah, so I started that list based on, after the meeting, we talked about that. I think it's a great thing if we want to put on the next agenda. I will come with a complete printout of all the things that are in the design or things that are designed in that can be added in the future or other items for the committee to look at. But I did start that list.
Okay, as long as it doesn't get lost, I'm fine with that.
Yep, I think if we put it in the minutes to have discussion on it next week, I can make sure I get the points out early and then we can talk about them.
So John, is that gonna come in the form of alternates or how's it gonna come? In what form?
Well, let's just take, I'll just start listing a couple. Let's take the energy recovery unit. That'll be in the base bid. That's just the way we do it. An energy recovery unit is used it's a mechanical piece of equipment that uses inside air to bring to lock. So it's a source that we can do that. The designing the roof to take the load for solar panels. We're not bidding solar panels at this time, but we're going to have the 2-pound extra weight in it. So I'll bring all the pieces like that, which are in it, aren't it, and I'm directed by you guys, if they're alternate bids or not alternate bids.
Okay, Lauren.
I'm thinking about energy efficient windows, the lighting, like LED lighting, everything's on sensors or timers or whatever, those type of issues, the latest and greatest HVAC system. Those
Correct,
kind of
and all those pieces will have, and then also focus on energy. We gave them the okay last week after the meeting to get going again with us. They'll analyze even beyond the LED lights, the switching we do, the sensors we do, to show the paybacks too. So that's in the works with Focus on Energy also.
Thank you.
John, does your firm do a life cycle cost analysis for alternative energy versus the grid?
When you're saying like photovoltaic panels and the payback?
Well, simplistically, I look at it this way. You can afford to buy it, but can you afford to own it? What is it going to cost to own it? And alternative, solar electric has a payback period. It pays itself off. The grid never has a payback period. You just keep paying whatever the cost is. That's what I'm trying to get at is over some period of time, how does that compare?
Yeah, so specifically related to the solar panels, yes, we will show a payback analysis. I think I mentioned to you, last time we just finished the fire station, they did it, there was grants, so all that does come with a payback. And then after the village, what's a good payback? To some people, 7 years, if they don't get it back in 7 years, we're not doing it. But, we're talking a 50-year-old building, it's a 20-year period. So those are things we'll bring. We're not going to be able to bring those to you right now, but those are things as we get into design, it'll come forward.
So what we'll get, John, then is a cost-benefit analysis in terms of energy efficiency, is what you're saying? That we can,
Yes.
we can make a decision, or the board can make a decision on long-term benefit, cost-benefit analysis, and if it's worth it or not to install these cost-benefit equipment.
Yeah.
When the project is built versus.
So I can tell you right now, though, specifically related to solar panels, we would have to raise the budget to put them in there now. So yes, we can look at them, but that would be a payback, and then the village would have to look at also increasing budget. I don't want to mislead anybody that the current budget will get us solar panels.
Okay.
You talking about construction cost, design cost, both?
The cost of it.
No, they won't. It's design cost is nothing. That's an easy. It's the actual purchase the panels and have them installed with the project cost would not be part of the budget.
Okay. It would almost be like an alternate at that point, right?
Yes, so we could do it as an alternate and then see what kind of rebates and grants we can get with it. That would be the way to do it, but I just don't want to mislead anybody that, we'll look at this as an alternate thinking it'll fit in the current budget. It definitely will not fit in the current budget.
Okay.
I understand.
So is that something that we feel he should add as an alternate in the?
I can just give you some experience with it. We filled the whole bus barn over at Kashina, and it was $650,000 to put them up. The panels. And I believe
Yeah, the last one I did for this size was a little over $1 million.
Yeah, and it's a lot of money.
What's the payback time with your experience?
We did that job 7 years ago, so I believe it was, John, I don't know what year was on that building, but because we did electric on one whole section of it, and we did hot water, and we tied that all in. We tied it into the heating system and hot water for the building, for the domestic and for the in-floor heat on the shop floors. So I can't remember what the electric was, but I believe the hot water side was a lot more efficient or a lot quicker return than the photovoltaic was, the electric.
Yeah, what you'll find out on a building like this, if we maximize the roof, this building can't even use that amount of power when it's peak loaded. So as we talked earlier, we either got to fill it back to the grid or we got to put batteries, which actually adds the cost. So to me, it's really looking at it, and if we can't do it today, to make sure when the systems comes down and it's a third or a quarter of the price, it can be put onto the building very cost effectively. So the last one we did was a 13-year payback, but most of them prior to that were averaging 20 plus.
Yeah, and if you take an average business owner, they're gonna tell you, no way.
Right.
Because you're costing your money, if you can't do it in 3 to 5, I mean, you said 7 to 10 earlier, but like you said, if you were to take the cost of doing it, it's hard to justify it. And especially if you can't, like even on a geothermal, if you take WPS in our area, you gotta really do the cost analysis on that versus if you go to the co-op down, 50 miles from here, they're actually almost dollar for dollar giving you it. If you're only gonna get credit back on the grid of a third of what they're charging you for, it hardly pays for itself. I mean, it takes a long time to get it done.
The other issue you have is that technology is changing faster than what we can turn around and bid something out for, is what it amounts to.
Yeah.
And, products that we are today, and they're so much more efficient than what they were 5 years ago. Can you imagine what they will be 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Okay, Lauren, last comment on this.
Okay, I'll try. So solar, wind, all these other systems, we also have to keep in mind that there's maintenance required on these things too. They're not maintenance free. I mean, crap breaks. Like we say, you could have a solar panel that busts or freaking hailstorm that smashes a limb. Granted, your insurance might cover it, but still, you're gonna pay a big deductible on something like that because it's high risk. I agree that it's a good idea, but we need to consider the things like if it breaks, we don't have money to fix it.
Okay, let's move on from that.
One more
Go ahead.
question, sorry.
Last comment.
Yep. John, what do you got figured for the shop HVAC and the office HVAC? We've been really having awesome luck with, and the cost analysis on the VRF. We've been doing it for about 6 years now. I don't know what your VRF variable refrigerant.
I apologize. I don't know the names by their specifics, but I believe
Variable refrigerant, it's just, you recapture, so like, we did it in Wassa Supply, and we're actually updating their system right now, in their new offices, and you can set it up where there's cassettes, and so it's basically a reverse refrigeration, like a heat pump off your air conditioning system, but it's a system, say, like, we're in this boardroom right now, and say the temperature on the thermostat in here says it wants to be 70 degrees. And another part of the building is calling in a room that's cold. It'll transfer the heat back through the refrigerant and dump it over into that other room by not even turning anything on. I mean, there's no burners going, there's nothing, no heat pump going. It'll transfer through the refrigerant, through the lines. So it can transfer heat from one room to another, and you can control each individual room with its own cassette, and also have it set on occupied, no different than when you walk into a room with your motion sensor for your lights to go on, or shop lights to go on as you're walking through, they're set for a certain amount of time. Nobody's moving, shop lights shut off. It's the same thing with the very refrigerant cassette. We did it for the new ENT, we're doing it for the new surgical associates in Wassa right now. It's a little bit more expensive, but I believe you'll get the one we did for ENT, they paid $200,000 to the architect for this whole design. We got called into a meeting and qualified for the project, and then we asked if we could change the project from VAV and rooftops in front of the architect, and had to sell it to the owner of why we wanted to, and we took the design over. We basically didn't charge them anything, so the set of plans they had were thrown away. And they love the system. They absolutely love it. Now Wassa Hospital is actually converting some of their facilities over to it as well.
so. You called it a VRF?
Yeah, variable refrigerant flow.
Yeah, we can check with the designer, and that's a perfect item that Focus on Energy will run all the payback analysis. They'll do different systems and kind of show us the positives and negatives and the paybacks and upfront costs.
Yeah, the other thing you get away from is crabby people, because one person's room is too hot, the other person's freezing. each of it, you could set it up where each individual has their own control in their room because they're off cassettes, or you can have a source or, if an area, you can actually dump 3 or 4 zones off of it if you wanted to and not have control of it. Or you might have 4 cassettes, like if it's in a big room here, you might have 4 cassettes. You can't even hear these things run. It's amazing. They're really cool. I know we took
Okay, well,
Wassa Supplies heat bill went down and electric bill went down. I know Joe would have to tell you, but I thought it was close to, it was a 3.5 to 4 year payback on their facility.
Dwayne, you had a.
Yeah, one more thing I'll bring up, I brought it before, and I'm looking at the site plan. And I really think it behooves the village to work with the county, and I know you're gonna expand Camp Phillips Road, and this site plan does not have that in there, and I think it should be done, so you put your building in the right location, so you have to do no movement in the future.
Okay, I thought John had that talked about already.
Yeah, we've talked with the county, so this site plan was before that, and then we paused all, site plan, revisions until we got done with this committee, some of the design aspects, just so we weren't redoing it multiple times, so.
Thank you, I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Apologize.
So that's on the schedule, right, to accommodate the county's future right away?
Correct.
Okay, all right, good enough. Let's move on then. Let's get into our next topic, number 5, which is our list of frequently asked questions, or FAQs. Brian, you alluded to that. Were you wordsmithing that list or something, or who was doing that?
Brian just
So I didn't print it off and bring it with me, so I'll try to do it from memory, but, yeah, I suggested an FAQ of what's in the design, what will this building accomplish with conservation and energy efficiency. And I put in a few comments from off the top of my head. And then I suggested a bullet list of what John is going to come up with what's in the design now and what's possible as a frequently asked question. And a suggested, at least, framework for a response.
Okay, as I was thinking about this topic, it struck me that it might be helpful for us to have a small group, and I guess, Brian, if you're volunteering to be part of that, I certainly would agree to be part of that too, and maybe working with Keith and Mark or others, and fine tune our FAQs, including the answers that we talked about. And so that we got those, we're going to review those in kind of a final format. What are the questions? What are the answers when you get called on that specific question? So I guess I'm volunteering here to work with you, Keith, to get that refined. So we got something ready for next time, perhaps?
Sure.
That'd be okay?
Yeah, we need to make progress on that, but,
Okay, because I think we have to have it, because not in our first newsletter, but probably by the second newsletter, we need to have those complete, both questions and answers, ready to be sent out. Of course, we won't send out the answers, but we'll send out the questions for sure. Or maybe we should send out the answers too. I don't know. We'll talk about that part later, but for sure we need to have the questions.
I think if you send it out, you'll have some people that come back and ask questions that we didn't think about that we may want to include.
Right. And maybe that should be a sort of a flexible list, so as we can modify it and add to it as we go along, depending on the feedback we get.
A living document, as they call it.
Living document. All right, any other questions on FAQs? If not, let's move on to our public information strategy. We'll go to the introductory letter that we've drafted. You should all have a copy of that. This is going out as a one-pager. And we left the question last time is if we want to include this with a tax bill or we want to send this out separately ahead of that. And our discussion tonight will be basically, okay, what do you want to do? What's the consensus on sending this out? And then we can also talk about fine tuning this if you have any questions on the actual text. So last time, the consensus appeared to be in slight majority that we should not include it with the tax bill. So let's talk to that now. Any strong feelings one way or the other? Barb?
Do not include it with the tax bills. Everybody I asked had the same response. One said, oh, well, I read everything and everything. She said, I don't know, I usually don't complain a lot about my tax bill. And I said, but how would you feel if then you opened up the other thing? And after she thought about it for a while, she says, well, maybe I wouldn't like it too much, you know. But the other ones, they just said, no, that would just really tick them off, you know, if they had to get their tax. They said, I'm not real happy getting my tax bill to begin with. And then if I'm looking to see, now you're talking about, you're gonna, they said, you know, again, I'm looking at my tax bill and going, geez. And now I'm getting a thing in the tax bill that says, oh, by the way, we're gonna build a new building and it's gonna go up. He said he would rather have read it and think about it, you know, and realize and not so much.
Okay.
Are we talking about this piece, the third document that was sent
Yeah.
out?
Mhm.
So with our names on it?
Yes.
That's it? There's not a whole lot
It's
there.
just an introductory,
Yeah.
page.
I actually have to say I'm on the other side, and I'm not on the committee, but I'm gonna tell you what I think. The only thing I do is I change the word new in the first sentence and somehow get replaced in there. I just think new sounds too new, and it's, you know, whatever, and I just, you know, we're back on track with plans to replace our municipal center. I mean, I don't wanna, if that sounds deceiving, then don't do it, but if we can find a different word for new just sounds like it's got dollar signs on it, but I have never been one to complain about taxes, because you're gonna pay them. You know, so when I was 16 years old or 15, when I got taxed on my first payroll check, yeah, I was shocked. But you know what? That's just the way it is. And, you know, so when I get my tax bill, I'm down here in a couple days and I get it in the same year and I'm done. It's just the way it is, you know,
Okay.
so that's my thought, one thought.
Wayne, you had a thought on that?
I like the word replace instead of new.
Replace, I agree. Replace sounds
Or any other word than new.
okay.
That's all.
Sure.
So,
Lauren, you had something?
I had updated or efficient.
well,
Updated sounds
we're
like
back on
fix
plans
something up.
to replace. Well,
Updated sounds like you're remodeling.
yeah,
something.
we're definitely replacing it, you know, moving and replacing or something, you know.
Replacement's a little clear.
Or even building on our new site, not new site, on a different site.
All right, any more thoughts on when we send this out? Tax bill or before?
I would not do it with the
Right.
tax bill.
Was that?
I would not do it with the tax bill.
Okay. Bob?
And I would do it before the tax.
Before?
Oh, I would too.
Tax bill goes out.
I'd do it before the tax bill then, if you're not gonna do it on the tax bill. Aaron, what do you think?
I would have it be separate myself. Now, I don't know what the final timeline is on this. When we're gonna wrap up our work, but you know, whether we can have something ready in the next few weeks is the question in itself. When does the tax bill go out?
Last week of December, right?
No.
Or no, oh, middle, yeah.
Middle of December for the tax bill.
By the time we get through Thanksgiving week, is this gonna be ready to go or not?
It could be easily ready to go.
Okay.
Definitely like building to serve. Love that.
And we're talking about a trifold.
I did receive feedback from one person, and his input was, you may have some residents that look at it in the other way, that you had to send a separate mailing, which was additional cost for this, but whether that's a significant issue in the big picture, that's not a lot of money.
Right.
But, you know, I would think, personally, I think it'd be two different situations.
Okay, so that seems to be the consensus. Any objection to that, then we'll make this a separate separate trifold mailer going out probably in about 2 weeks or so. Certainly before, at least a week before the tax bill gets mailed. So we got a little bit time, and and any other questions on the, other than the replacement word down the part?
Who's getting this?
Everybody.
When you say everybody?
Property owner?
Property owners.
Property owners.
Tax recipients, tax bill recipients.
Taxpayers,
Yeah,
Yes, okay, because.
property owners.
I'd use the same list that's getting tax bills.
Sure, it can be the same, same database. Because they don't miss any properties. Brian?
So that's a good question because I live in an apartment building. I don't get a tax bill directly.
Yep.
I pay it through my rent.
That's a good thought.
And I would guess that there's 46 apartments in the building I live in, and I would guess that if 10 of them understand that the property taxes get paid through the rent, that's probably a large number. It still seems to me that they should be getting one.
I understand that, but
I mean, I guess I disagree with that. The people that it's affecting is the people that are getting the tax bills. So why are we sending a mailing out to people that it doesn't matter? You know, I understand it's their rent, but that's up to them and their landlord. It's not up to, I mean, it's directly affecting me. It's not directly affecting the renter.
Yeah,
It's an
but
indirect effect, but it comes back. If there's any business that isn't returning a cost into their price, they're not in business very long. That seems to me to be economics 101, but.
Another point is the village is here to serve all residents, not just the ones that pay a property tax bill.
True. That's true.
Well, is there this question, I guess, would be for Keith or whoever, is there a way to merge that database for property tax bills and voters, for example, or residents? How do we get to those residents who are not registered voters or they're not property owners?
I think it'd be similar to how we send out our water quality report every year. It has to go to every postal patron.
Okay.
So we would have a database for that.
Okay.
But we wouldn't, but that one also includes Rothschild residents, which don't have to be included, so we could figure something out. Nate probably would be the guy that would work on that, I would think.
What was that? I'm sorry.
A mailing list for all tax parcels, plus then any other.
Plus residents who are
in,
not
multifamily.
property owners or even registered voters.
Yeah, well, what I could do is, we would just do a mailing to all property owners, and then we could, based off of zoning, whatever's like zoning for apartments or multifamily, we could separate out the mailing addresses for those.
Yeah, it should be similar to the.
And like trailer park people or whatever, I mean, can you get to every person that is a resident?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I imagine we're gonna miss some people, no matter what we do.
What mailing list do you use for the quarterly newsletter? Because everybody in our apartment complex gets a copy of that.
Yeah, it's similar to what I just discussed, yeah.
okay. That should work.
I think it just comes to resident. It doesn't come to us.
Right. And it will have the same information on there anyway, as far as who to contact for questions or answers. So on the newsletter thing itself, any problems with that or the way we've got it set up?
I had a couple edits I sent to Keith. I guess he could
Sure.
work with you at, so I won't bore everybody with those.
Okay.
You know, can you just hold that piece of paper up? You know, maybe that logo that could be bigger. You know, just fill the page a bit more so they can.
Yeah.
A little easier read, a little better font.
I think definitely want to keep this to one page.
One page,
Yeah,
yeah.
one page, but if that's the actual page that was printed, just expand it and make the font a little bigger and
Right.
make that logo a little bigger, if you could.
Well, let me address that to Val. Val, if you're still on. We want to keep that to one page. Can we do that with making that logo a little bit bigger? Valerie, what do you think?
I'm not on, actually, and I didn't produce this document, but I was
Okay.
just thinking, I wonder if you could, make it as like a watermark in the background.
Oh,
Can't see that.
We
I may
could,
not see it, but Mort, you're on the second page here, right?
yeah.
Okay, so that would have to obviously be drifted up.
Well,
I guess my.
You know, this page here looks better than that printed page.
So,
This,
yeah, that
this fills up
the
better,
one,
yeah.
that one shows comments
Right,
that
we
are
can take that
that are
off.
still turned on, and when you turn that off, it does go to 2 pages. We
Okay.
need to get it to 1 page. This is
Yeah,
where we could also get some refinement with our marketing person
okay.
in terms of the logo and layout, maybe appearance, that kind of thing. And some final editing, I think there's some things that we thought could be taken out to get it down to 1 page. Maybe there's some language in there yet.
So we'll get it to one page, Lauren.
a word processing person, most word processing programs have the ability to, if you've got a page and a half document, it'll say shrink to fit on one page.
Right.
It'll put it all on one page. You might wind up with a smaller font, but if your goal is to keep it on one page, they have that. So that's available.
Okay. And we can make the margins smaller or something. Yeah, I've done that. Oh, okay. Okay, so that's what we'll do. They'll go out and, we may not have, another discussion on this, but we'll proceed to get this out.
When are we gonna identify the cost? At a later date?
That will come later.
You know, and then what it's gonna affect them?
Right.
Okay,
I think this is just the opening shot, so to
Okay.
speak. The following newsletter would include all the frequently asked questions and start to estimate and lay out the cost as it applies to them, property owners. Because I think that needs to come fairly soon after the first one.
I agree.
You can use a legal sized, bigger sized page. It would be just one page, but it'd be a little bit, that much more space.
Oh, yeah, you can still get that onto a fourfold or whatever they call it. Sure, sure. Okay, so that'll come soon after the first one goes out. So that brings us to number 6, which is to talk a little bit about the role of this committee and where do we go from here? How long do we survive? What is our future? And I want to just open that up a little bit because I sense there may be a little uncertainty or maybe not clarity around, okay, what is the role of the committee from here on? And I think, you all got this handout. I think you should have this from the architect laying out the timeline. But there's a couple other things that we need to add in here to complete this. And one of the things would be that I understand, and I, correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that the board still has to make a final vote on the project going forward. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so when would that happen? When would that be scheduled?
It would occur after the plan commission meeting.
It would happen the third week of December.
Third week in December,
Yes.
okay?
It'd have to be before we go out to bid. I mean, that'd be silly to go out to bid.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you
Yeah,
can't.
they have to
We- we-
finalize their plan.
Yeah, 14th would be planning and then the 21st. Now, that's if the planning commission approves it, but most of us are here, so.
Right.
A representative from this committee probably should be at that meeting, not necessarily the members that are
For the board or planning?
for the plan, not necessarily those of us that are on the plan committee, but
Well,
someone.
we also got to get through Jennifer. We got to get a site plan approved, right? Is that planning or Jennifer?
Plan commission.
Planning commission.
Okay, all right.
Actually,
Second
it
on
could
that,
be-
Michael, if we're waiting on the site plan to be done, how do we get it through planning commission?
That's what I'm looking for.
Well, we can,
Could be a.
I guess after tonight's meeting, we can move forward with that.
Do we know what the county's doing?
Yeah, I guess we have the right of way width that we need to be set back at.
Okay.
Can I make this?
Look there.
Barb,
On the county, giving them what they want for widening the road, make sure that you get in there that they will all keep that median strip open for those road access.
Oh, heavens, yes.
At least at those two
I mean,
streets.
this
that
is
we're
the
gonna-
only time you're gonna have any leeway.
We have to get that. We can't go right out. We have to go right and left. Yeah.
You know, because they, sorry, Mark, but they have a tendency that, you know,
What'd you
once
say
they,
there, Mark?
once they get what they want,
My way or the
what you
highway?
want is gonna be a battle, so you.
I agree with
while
you, Barb.
still can-
well, here's the expert on what the county.
I agree with you, Barb.
And so while you have the power to do that, get a written agreement that you will have an open median strip.
Yeah, so we'll design it with the right of way in mind, but we're not giving them any right of way today.
No,
Remind them
I'm just
that-
saying, don't ever
Remind,
that right away.
remind them in a couple of years, we're probably gonna do a round.
No,
with,
I recommend you do agreement between the village and the
Right.
county,
Yep,
indicating once you're gonna give the right of way, and in return, you're gonna ask for this, this, and this. If they get you
Yeah.
right away, you get it signed off.
I agree. Gotta get it in writing.
Well, trust in God, but tie your camel.
What's that?
Trust in God, but tie your camel?
Yeah,
John,
I like Reagan's better, trust but verify, right?
Yes.
there you go.
You put it in writing. Okay, so any questions on, Brian?
Yeah, I'm wondering about the plan. Is there a zoning issue with the site?
No, we already zoned it already. We did that, right? Yes, we already rezoned
Rezoning's
it.
been taken care of.
Yep, once we bought it, we rezoned it.
Zone institutional, is what we call.
Gary?
John, are you there yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here. Everything was taken care of already.
Okay, yes, it has.
We did that in July.
Yep.
John, are these numbers, are these dates on here, are they realistic for having all your designs done?
Well,
For-
that's
for
what I was
bid
gonna say. This is our quickest path that we're trying to push and get. So, you know, obviously we want to get plan commission as soon as we can so we don't have any drawbacks. But we think as we're at right now, we can hit these, but I'm waiting back for some final information from our engineers. Now, if Focus on Energy, we agree to switch things, then that's where it becomes an issue. Because remember, our mechanical engineer is 50% done. So if we decide as a group, we're switching type of systems, that sets us back.
Well, that's my question is, if your mechanical contractor is 50% done, what system is he putting in? Do we even know?
Yeah, he knows. I just don't have it memorized. I didn't come tonight with that, you know, detailed of information. He knows, but I don't have it in my mind.
Can we get that, John? Can you forward that to Keith? And then Keith
Yeah, I'll
could,
get it. Yeah, and
Keith
actually,
could forward it to the
the-
committee?
And the only
Correct.
reason why is,
Yeah,
these are some pretty tight dates in order for the committee to look at and say, what kind of, you know, and for also for you to come up with budgets, and cost analysis on payback, for first ad for bid of January 7th seems pretty aggressive.
Yeah. But this was just going off from board's input last time that we wanted to try to get out and get back by mid-February. Realistically, we could add easily 2 weeks on here and still get, you know, good bids. I'm just trying to give you the best dates possible that we feel we can meet.
So let me, this is more, let me just clarify for Gary's sake here. You are saying that you can meet the bid requirements and the bid specs by these dates, but are you saying that that would include inclusion of Gary's concept of RF, whatever you call that?
Well, I'm just trying to see if he, I mean, it looks like he's got first, I mean, we would have to make the decision of what the building, I mean, all the building design completely done, mechanicals, everything, for that to be put out for bid in January.
Yeah.
7th. That's a lot of work on their end. I gotta go. I'm going to look at my grandson through a window, so thank you.
Yeah, Gary, just so you know, prior to this committee being formed, we were drawing. So our engineers are 50% done. We, as I said to you guys last time, we halted when this committee was formed. Last week after Wednesday, we had our meeting internally. I told them, as you guys said, get back going full force. So we're back into it based on conversation last week. So you're absolutely correct. The engineers were the mechanical engineer was 50% done. So if we got to revamp that system, we'll react and see what we can do. But I'm just throwing I'm telling you, yes, if we got to change things, then it makes a difference in dates.
So what has staff made decisions on? Could somebody help me with that? What has staff made decisions on for any of your mechanical stuff?
It's up to the engineering firm, the architects to design.
That's not something that we necessarily directed them on.
So you left it to the mechanical engineer.
That's what their job is.
Yeah, okay, so what we have.
Find out what they're including.
You know, basically what Gary's saying is that we do have some people here that do have expertise, so let's get that to Gary group right away and take a look at it.
Well, no, I was just wondering to make sure that if Scott had some input, you're gonna look at it and say, why do we, right? You're gonna have some.
I'll look at the electrical plan.
Yeah, that's my point, is has anybody had given them input or?
They have electrical engineers that are designing it, so I would assume that they know what they're doing.
But they do, but do they know what you need? What you need on your facility is what I'm getting at.
Right.
Well, they've designed a bunch of facilities and built them already, so they should know what we need. I mean, it's a service garage built office building. So I mean, they're proposing 480 volt, I believe 3,000 amp service or whatever. So, with the standby generator for the overhead coolers and so forth.
Okay.
I think the best thing too is I can get those, but I can also have the mechanical, the engineer for next week's meeting. And he can give you a high level review where he's at with what systems.
Great. Is that one company that's doing all those trades for you?
Correct. Our MEP is one correct.
Okay.
They do all the disciplines. Correct.
Fire protection, all of it, everything.
Correct. Fire, plumbing, heating,
Sure.
air conditioning. HVAC. Yeah, it's all in-house one.
And is that all done? Are you guys doing that on Revit for BIM, for any clash detections or anything like that? Is that
Yes,
been
sir.
talked
Everything's
about?
everything's 3D in Revit. Correct.
Okay.
Lauren,
I had a comment, or actually a question. Does this site, these plans require review by the state?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So if we may be all ready to go and the state's maybe dragging their feet.
No, our appointment will be made before bids are even due. We
Okay.
take care of all that. We schedule all that out.
Okay, thank you.
so the only question remaining is how we incorporate the RF energy concept that Gary talked about to make sure that that's a viable alternative for the planning, right? Going forward. We don't want to just go past that and say, well, it's already done and it's a traditional HVAC arrangement when we've just been informed that there's maybe another more efficient method available for that HVAC control. So.
And I think that would
Yeah, no,
also require cost benefit ratio too. I mean,
it's going to be typically you won't take two complete engineering systems and bid it. That'd be abnormal. You know what I mean? But we could try to cost it up front. All these systems have historical data that tells you how much they cost per square foot.
Mm-hmm.
And we can tell you, we're using a system that is X and you're looking at Y. Do you want to spend this much or this less? So historical data will help us make some decisions that way too.
Will we have that at the next meeting or not, John? This Dwayne, will we have that at the next meeting?
Oh, the high-end square footages, sure. That's easy. The engineers probably, they can go through and rattle those things off.
I figured that.
Okay, that would be good. So that'll be on our agenda for next time Valerie. To review-
Michael has something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, hey, John, do you have exterior renderings too for, the committee to look at by next week?
We have those already. Those are the ones you guys have that you have on the top part of the form, but yeah, we can give those again.
Okay, I guess, yeah, 'cause that'll be necessary for plan commission too.
Yep, for sure.
So let me just circle back then. Where's down here?
I was, if you want to circle around, I just wanted to make sure that one topic I had brought up and I talked to Keith about is there's some labels on the rooms that I think need to be revised, and I see one of them on here yet was the future attorney room. And I just think the minute, if you want to put a future, office or whatever, don't put attorney on there at this point.
Okay,
And there was some other ones like clerk lobby, field lounge, fleet office / library. To me, those were just sending up red flags.
okay.
Just put different titles, something, that,
Generic.
yeah.
Future office
You could
in
put
the
in
store.
a reception area where it's clerk lobby. Lobby sounds to me like a lounging area, and that's like the lounge, it just,
Okay, did you get those suggestions, John?
Yeah, we got those, I think, this week too.
Okay,
I had emailed Keith, I don't know.
nothing,
Yeah.
no specific red flags on there. Just leave it nice and vague,
No inflammatory words.
Make it sound luxurious.
as long as we know what it's intended for, right? So let me circle back then, before we wrap this up, to talk about the committee itself. What I'm anticipating is that we had originally said that like December 9th might be a needed meeting, but maybe not, because the committee's gonna be wrapped up. I'm thinking that we're not gonna be wrapped up quite that quick. And I don't think we should plan on being wrapped up. I think we're actually not gonna get through this that quick. So I guess I'm asking for your consensus or permission that we just keep going with the committee until we feel that our role is pretty much done. And that would not come until after the board, the village board has accepted the plan, accepted our recommendation, and they're moving forward.
Right.
Otherwise, I think we're gonna have the political process involved in here is not insignificant, okay? The board has to wrestle with this project. They have to approve the whole thing in totality going forward, including committing the cost to the tax base. And that's not a small decision for an elected board, okay? And you guys understand that, being on the board. And so I think we have to get through that process with the board before we can say, okay, we're pretty much done. Our role, as I recall, as I see it, is to help the board get through this process. And part of that role, and I'll be just quite honest here, is to buffer the board from the natural, let's say, feedback or fallout or kickback from residents who learn about this project and decide they don't like it. We don't want to spend this money. And they call their board person, their trustee, and they start complaining. Hopefully they would call some of us. And we act as a buffer. We can say, look, we're a citizens committee, we're not elected, which gives us a little protection. But we can say with a straight face, hopefully, look, we've looked at this project. We think there's a need for this project. We support the village board moving forward. And that was our role as a committee person, as a citizen committee person. And then what are your questions about that? And if they have specific questions, then we have our little sheet in front of us. And we answer, hopefully, their questions about the project. That's what I see our role is. Now, maybe that's a little more ambitious than you had thought, but I think that's a practical way to consider ourselves as citizen committee, okay? And then I think that helps the board get through the political process of making a decision on spending millions of dollars that the taxpayers are gonna pay for a project that some people are gonna question even the need for. That's where you come in, I think. That's where we come in. Say, look, we've looked at the project and yeah, we really need it. We're living in a 75-year-old building. And this is 2020 and our village is growing, we're expanding, we're progressing. We need a better facility, not only for our employees, but to put a good face on this great community. You know, this village hall is probably one of the worst buildings in the village in terms of public access. And it's been added on to it, it's been amended, it's been changed and little bits moved around here and there, but we're still in a 75-year-old building. And when this building was built, we were probably 5,000 population. Now we're the fastest growing community in the whole county. And I think our facilities ought to reflect that. So we're looking at the future. And I think that's what you should be representing to the citizens. I apologize for preaching here, but
You want to get off your bike?
that's where I see it going. Lauren.
So those of us that are elected officials that go through this, every decision we make on the village board is going to raise the ire of some people. And I, as an elected official, represent everybody in the village, not just a small minority that might have my ear on occasion. And I need to plan for this community and in the future, my kids, although they don't live, our kids, grandkids, and the growth. If we don't plan for growth, we're gonna stagnate and gonna go. And I'm willing to risk not being elected.
That's great. I don't often hear that, but I'd like to hear it more. That my role as an elected official is not to get reelected next time and do whatever it takes to get that's not the primary role of an elected official. Now I'm speaking now from long years in politics, like you guys know. But we can say that honestly, that my role as an elected official in this village is to move the village forward, progress forward with good planning and growth potential. And if I don't get reelected because of something, that's okay. This is not about me. This is about the village. And we're all in this together. It's our village, it's our community. And I love to hear that comment. And I like to hear that as often as I can, but I don't often hear it. So thank you. That's what I was hoping to hear. And I think all of us are probably in the same attitude. Our job as a committee and as a trustee is to move the village forward. And if it costs me my election, that's secondary, that's minor. The important thing is we're moving forward as a village, taking our place in this county as a high growth community that we can be proud of. I mean, I love this village. I think we're doing a good job in this village, and I want to see us keep moving forward. I don't want to see us stuck in a 75-year-old building forever with employee morale problems and equipment problems, and it's just not a good face on who we are, okay? We can do better. So thank you, and forgive the speech making, but any other thoughts on our role?
I'll say thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
For the simple reason, I think there's several people on the committee that think that and I'm not one to hold things back, right?
Please.
So I just want to be honest, because some people aren't gonna be honest. They're not gonna say it, and everybody's afraid to say it. But there are people that are gonna look at you, and if you don't have the buy-in yourself on it, how are you gonna sell this to somebody that calls you? I'm just being 100% honest here.
Yep.
So the comments that I'm gonna get, and I'm gonna get them from business, like Joe's not here, and I'm not gonna pick on Joe. We had conversation with Joe on this. Joe's facility, Watt Supply, is almost 1 million square foot, or just broke 1 million square foot, right? How big is this building? How big is their new building gonna be? Is it 90,000?
Well, 114,000.
Okay, I asked Joel if they even hit 18 million. He said, no. We're putting up a tenth of the size of the building and it's gonna be 14 to 16 million dollars. Okay? That's hard for Joel or myself to be able to tell a customer that's calling me to say, how is your buy, why is your buy, why should, and I gotta try to justify why I can't put my own trucks into a building and my equipment under a roof. So them are the things that I guess I wanna bring up for some of our committee members that aren't really voicing the opinion, but they have it inside and they're not willing to say it. And I'm not trying to piss staff off because I love the staff members, right? I think they need a new facility, but is it $15 million worth?
Well, Gary, the construction of the new facility is gonna be tip-up precast versus your steel building, which the steel buildings are cheaper to build. This building is gonna be obviously to last a lot longer, many more years longer. It'll serve the village, being that it's gonna be a masonry construction, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the longevity of the building should be probably 2 to 3 times what your building would be.
Okay,
And the maintenance should be a lot less for the village to pay in the long run.
okay. So again, I have to have that, and everybody else that's gonna get this phone call that doesn't work for the village has to have that understanding why we're paying 10 times more,
Right.
right?
And that is the reason, is that it's to outlast, I mean, and this is 70-year-old building, it's masonry building, okay? And it's lasted us that long, but we've outgrown it.
Yep, I get it, I completely understand that. I'm looking at the cost of it, that's all I'm trying to say, is to try to justify the cost of it. And I'm not here to argue with anybody about it. I'm gonna get them phone calls, and I'm gonna have to justify it, right?
Yep.
So it's a lot of money.
It is.
And when I asked Joe Jordan that question, he's like, no, I said, okay, what's your opinion on it? It's a lot of damn money. It's a lot of damn money, especially when we're not getting input from our taxpayers.
Right.
We're basically telling them, this is what we're ramming down your throat, right?
Oh, yeah, there's no question.
That's the right way to put it.
And there's,
Well, I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I just want to be honest because you know what? We are going to get these things asked of us. And we have to be on board. And Mort, thank you for explaining your opinion. And you give me a different perspective of it. But I also want the staff to understand too. I don't want to take anything away from the staff either. I think we could build a building, but somehow we have to have in our mind the justification of that. When I can look at a building and whether it's tip-up concrete walls or not, it doesn't cost 10 times the cost. It just doesn't. So the $14 to $16 million budget is a stiff budget. I mean, it's an expensive building. So I just personally have a hard time myself just telling the citizens, yep, this is what we're doing. I mean, you pay the taxes, but this is what we're doing. We made the decision without you. And I understand that's what you guys have done investigation, that you don't need to do that but is it the right thing to do? That's my question.
So this is a question I think we already kind of threw out there to me. I mean, what's the benefit of going out to it? You know, we go to a referendum and it doesn't pass, then what? We still need a facility. This facility is outdated. Now, I don't know, I know John and we have talked about this. You're talking about comparing now a metal building to.
I don't care if I put tip-up walls up there, Keith.
Okay.
Right now, I'm just gonna tell you, it ain't gonna cost 10 times the amount.
Well,
I know what the
I don't
tip-up
know what else is
concrete costs.
included in here. What else is included in the construction?
Joe's got a
building-
2-story office building,
Okay.
twice the
But you
square
do
footage.
too. I understand, right?
Yep.
So how can we best address this?
That might be something John.
This is a question I think we need to get some FAQs in there that address this aspect of the project.
Yeah.
at the very least, we need some answers for Gary and everyone.
Well, I don't wanna be the only one that's talking here because there's other people, there's other people in this room that are feeling the same way.
I'm concerned about the cost. I mean, I'm concerned about it. I think we kind of went around this, it seems like we're squeezing in. And I understand the timeframes and the reasons to do it. I don't know what COVID has done to the price of building or just the price of steel or the concrete. That's not, I mean, Joe would probably be able to tell us that. I just know it sucks when you go to buy a 2x4 and you're paying $8, you know, at Home Depot.
Well, those prices will come down in December, January, that's the statistics, but
We're hoping, but, or they're non-existent on it.
they're starting to come down already.
And, but I'm concerned from the, you know, the dollar standpoint, because we kind of, right now, I'm the new guy here. I was appointed by the board members. They put me on here when Mark replaced Wally, but, and I was on before, 10 years ago or whatever it was. It just seems like today, we're reacting to what was done over the last 3 years. And we're tweaking which office goes where, and are we gonna save any money by not having this gigantic lunchroom? You know, I mean, that's where the conversations are, and it's like, well, how did we decide that we needed that big lunchroom? I can't explain that. Right now, I can't explain why we need to have that. And why we need to have that instead of, you know, just utilizing the boardroom that's right there for training, right? That's the kind of stuff that is concerning me, that overall, we got this budget, or we got this building that now has a budget of this, as opposed to saying, okay, for 8 million or for 10 million, this is what you get, or 8 million, this is what you get, or whatever. Instead of carving out a fuel island for 300,000 or whatever it's gonna cost. It just seems like we're going about it a little bit backwards, and right now, I'm not completely comfortable with that.
Yeah, well,
I guess, you know, to Gary's issue and mine also is that we have basically two types of entities. We have an office building and we have a repair shop / storage facility. Am I correct? And one is obviously more cost per square foot than the other one. And I think maybe if we could somehow get an idea of the cost of the one versus the other and have some comparison to an average facility of that size. You know, obviously a facility where we're storing a lot of things is just a large square footage roof and outside walls. And that, we should have a pretty good idea of what that is. Now, the other part of that we have to understand is that there's a lot of things that are going into that aren't in a typical storage facility. When you turn around and look at all the grading and the heat and all of that stuff that would normally be not necessarily a need when you're just parking a vehicle inside. We're using it because of trying to maintain better quality as far as the equipment and maintaining it and all of that stuff. We're looking at heat, which is a big difference than if I were just to have a garage to put all my trucks in. I don't need to heat that, or I would typically wouldn't need to heat that. But I think the biggest thing is, what is our office section kind of costing us versus the other section? That would give us maybe a better idea of, are we spending more in maybe that area than we should be, or exactly where we're at.
And I guess to your comment there, Bob, I personally feel that, I'm gonna look at you, right? Ryan, can you add on to the bank so people can pull all the vehicles in, or can you? And I'm not saying that in a shitty way, or myself, all right? Any other business person, would my employees love to be able to pull into a shop that's got heated and they can get in their heated vehicle the next day to go out and plow or to go out? Hell yeah. But you know what? I can't pay the extra tax bill. I can't put the extra $1 million in the building to do it. And on top of it, I can't pay the extra $20,000 for the gas bill to heat all this frozen iron that I'm pulling in the shop that's gonna melt off. Because every bit of that is a loss of energy.
Right.
So all I'm trying to say is there's a lot of people out there in our community that can't afford to put a facility up like this and have the luxury of that are gonna be probably angry when they're calling us, right? So we have to have those conversations of how we're gonna redirect that and how we're gonna feel like we are on board with it before we can answer those questions. Because some of the staff right here, Steve, if you get a call and somebody says, I'm pissed off about it, how are you gonna keep them positive?
I'm gonna explain what I can and give them Keith's cell number.
You know, and I'm really not trying to throw a wrench in here. I'm trying to
No, I
be a
am.
realist. I'm really just trying to be a realist here.
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be very tough. And I don't have the business exposure that I used to and that you're living right now. I mean, I have the same concerns about, do we really need to have that? But I'll be honest, I was thinking, it was the first night that we met here. I asked about that. I don't know how we got from needing the building, yes, to the bill's gonna be $15 million. And I asked some questions about why do we have to have it? If we trade our trucks or sell our trucks every 5 to 7 years, do we really need to have all of that warehouse space or with the precast walls? And
Well, when we talked with Joe about it as well.
yeah,
They run how many semis? Same with Mark, with their semis. Do they have a repair staff there? No. Because they can't afford all the tooling, they can't afford the labor, it's hard enough to find labor right now, quality people. So why do they use an outsource? Because you know what? It's there, it's done, it's maintained, it's back, they don't have to worry about it. So there's a lot of those things that some of these companies are gonna question is, why aren't we utilizing some of the resources in our community to repair some of the things? Because we have a lot of resources in our community, but again.
but that, I guess my question is, I'm not confident that discussion was ever had before. Once again, I'm the new guy. Keith gave me all of the packets and stuff and I did read them. But I still don't have a real comfortable level of understanding of why we have to have it built that way to do that. And did that give a fair consideration? I don't think that it did. I don't know if it has. I just don't have that confidence. I hope I do. And I'm not trying to upset any apple carts here. I'm just saying, I think that it's gonna be difficult.
And I just kind of popped in here, I've been here twice. So, and every time I leave here, I leave wondering, how are we gonna explain this to the taxpayers? Every time I leave, how am I gonna explain it to my neighbor, why we need this? We know we need a new building. They can buy into that. Do we need a $2 million garage? I don't know. We did, in the designs and everything that we looked at, when I started, I just came to the meeting randomly. I didn't really know what to expect. And just looking at it from that perspective and talking to neighbors down my street, their heads are just shaking. You're really gonna have to explain what you're gonna get from that's gonna last, that's gonna be done. And I've got people that have been in this community for a long time that are living in my neighborhood and see me walking every day. Every time we went through a big decisions and I was walking the neighborhood, my dog would end up laying down so they could let me know that we might not have made the right decision. So I want to feel more comfortable as a trustee walking through my neighborhood that we really have vetted all of these things, like Steve is saying and Gary is saying. I was up north this week and I didn't see one indoor garage like we're talking about. Merrill is exposed and out. I was meeting with those guys. I was up in Eagle River. None of those guys have this big place indoors. And they sell their vehicles every 6 years. I asked them, so what do you do? Well, we get rid of it every 6 years. It's just on a 6-year cycle. They just buy a new one. Sell their old one and somebody pays them almost what they paid for their new one by the time it's done. So they make out well. So they don't worry that it's sitting out in a yard. And if you put it in a parking place outside, it's just as easy to get at it as it is to get it from inside a garage. So, those are some big things that are out there that I think, is this a $15 million building or can we make it a $10 million building or an $8 million building? How do we make it palatable for the taxpayers? And then you better be able to tell every one of the property taxpayers what their extra $500 a month, $500 a year is going to be paid for, what they're going to get out of it, what those taxpayers are actually going to realize, what it's going to do to the value of their home. It's not going to do a damn thing to the value of their homes. That's the reality. It's not adding value to them in their minds, and that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, all good questions, all good questions. And I don't have any answers for that, but it seems to me that there's so many parts to this. And I know that when we're talking about the average resident, they see the figure of 15 million, okay, and that's a big number for anybody. But what's missing is, okay, what do you get for that 15 million? And how do you explain that, including all the history that we've had here, what's coming in the future, how fast we're growing, what is the debt that we have now going to do to the debt in the future? How much are we going to be paid off anyway, which levels out the impact financially because of good financial management up till now. And there's a lot of those parts to that answer that is really hard to explain in like one shot. There's a whole lot goes into this. And I don't know how we got to 15 million, but I do know that at some point in the past, the village board has said, yes, we're moving forward with this project. And then at some point, somebody must have said, well, maybe we ought to get some input on this from the citizens committee. That's us. So we definitely, as Gary said, we definitely need to become familiar with a lot more of the details, especially related to the financials here, because we are going to have some explaining to do. I don't think it's out of the question that we can explain this. And ultimately, the cost is going to be decided by the bid that comes in. And if we can get the right bid environment, meaning timing, it may not be 15 million. We don't know. We're just estimating right now what we think it could cost. But when you factor in things like the declining debt payments that we have now, the increased growth in the village, which in future years will spread the valuation across a lot more property, which means that tax impact will be lower. When you factor in all those things, it's not quite as dramatic, okay? But again, how do you put that all in a one-liner back to somebody that's just pissed off a $15 million figure? You can't really do it unless they're willing to take the time to get into the details and the projected cost versus versus estimated cost. I mean, this thing in reality is probably going to cost different than what we're estimating. We can't tell them how much exactly it's going to cost. It depends how fast the village is growing, how many new houses are built next year. Every time you build a new house in this, that dilutes the tax impact. It adds to the tax base because there's more property that's adding to the tax base, which is diluting the cost. And I don't know how you factor all that into a one-shot response. You don't, frankly, but you need to know some of those issues so that you can at least sound like you've studied it or you're familiar with it. And because what you're going to get is an emotional response. When people see 15 million, they're responding emotionally to that, not factually. All they see is that big number.
Well, Martin, not to interrupt you, but I think it's more of the consumer conception of why can they build a fancier building when we can afford to build?
Right.
We can help you here a little bit. Well, and from a commercial standpoint, commercial buildings and municipal buildings, there is a difference in costs.
Oh, yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, but if you want to reduce the cost of a municipal building, and especially public works, you gotta make a decision what you want, cold storage, what you want warm storage. There's items in a municipal operation, you can have cold storage on. You have to make a case where the trucks are in warm storage, but the room's not big enough, so you gotta go and get your plows. So it takes time to put your plows on, put the portion on. That's time management portion. You gotta look at that process. There's also equipment that you can put in cold storage. I mean, I haven't looked at all the equipment here, and if someone made a decision that we're all gonna have a warm storage or it's gonna have some cold storage. Cold storage is just, it gives you, iron's gotta be out there. You know what iron's like when it's cold, it's cold. If you're gonna try to start it, it takes longer to start it. But you can get technology to start the stuff. The other thing is, how far are you planning for the administration offices are real hard to plan for. And basically how far you plan out for future for administration. I've seen cases where you just finally feel like it just put too costly, so they cut the second floor out. When they cut the second floor out, you can really cut your costs down and say, well, administration, I'll be on the first floor. Then later on, where are you going to expand? You got to look for how you're going to expand and where you're going to expand. I've seen cases where they cut the second floor out and then they try to keep building on. They can't expand because they didn't structurally put the facility in the alternative for expansion. And if you're gonna, some people say, well, gee, you're just gonna put the second floor and not do it now, it's much cheaper. That's hard to sell. That is very hard to sell. I've been in that spot. So, and like I said, where you're gonna expand maybe the garage, if you're gonna, move the road right away, well, you should move the road over, or immediately you should put on a plan that's a future expansion spot. So people understand why it's sitting that far over. You gotta put those in those plans ahead of time. So I believe the staff must have gone through the process with procedure before and said, this we should have inside, and this we should have outside. You had a discussion on the fuel station. That definitely should be an alternate bid. So there might be things that you may want to take a look at the structure and say, might be cheaper to put a metal building up for cold storage and take certain pieces of equipment out and not have it in this facility. But you gotta put that cold storage someplace. And if you all want it on one site, you definitely want all on one site. You don't like this cold storage over here or over there. So we're in a great opportunity to have it all on one site. So I don't know how much this has been driven by, design been driven strictly by staff with very little input from the village board. I don't know that. I'm Burcom Link committee here. A lot of stuff was in place. It had to be based on the architect's future. I've worked with John in the past. When you put these facilities together, you try to put all the air in one spot. You know what it's like. You want to keep it all warm. Well, if you want the efficiencies, if you want the fuel in, the plows on, and you put the salt in before they go out the door, they just run out the door. And I think that's what they try to do here. But basically, I've been in facilities where you don't have room for the plows. You need the fuels in it. Just can't put the salt and in it, so we end up like, pull the trucks out, put the plows out in the snow, then fill the salt in, which really drags your time down. So that's what you're looking at, time management of how you operate a piece of equipment. How do you explain it to somebody? That's the thing that I think Gary's looking for and somebody on board members. How do you explain it?
And I'm not against this at all.
No, I know you're not.
And I do not want the staff to think I'm bucking this. I'm trying to figure out, how do I justify this to somebody?
I'm trying to give you some examples.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Now, when I've had to go through my experience putting facilities together.
Mhm.
Here's what the facility does and basically is, when you get in business, it's time is money.
Yes.
That's important. In municipalities, I always see time doesn't seem like it's money. I always say, no, our time is very valuable, time is money. And the more you sit there and fiddle equipment or sit there and, excuse my terms, grab ass, get in the damn truck and get out the door, and if you have that philosophy and have that facility to do that, they're out that door. I've seen what John has designed in the past. His designs are based on get in there, get it ready, get out the door. We need to know what he's designed, why we designed it, and what the staff wanted it. So we can repeat what they went through. If we're positive as a subcommittee, and even elected officials positive why we need it, and this is why we have the cost, you have a better way, if you believe in it, then you have a better way of actually displaying it to your citizens, your neighbors. If you don't believe in it as an elected official or on a committee, you could actually be hurting your citizens or your community if you don't want us to talk positive where we're gonna go. So basically, if you're in this room now and you still have problems with the size of it, the cost of it, you need to start saying something now because you're gonna be out in the street saying negative pieces for this facility. And that's where I think Gary's coming from. I'm glad he spoke up. Everybody should speak up because if you can't come out and feel good with what you're saying you're gonna build and why you're building it, the staff come and go. No offense, staff. I'm sorry. I've come and gone. I've seen people come and go. More than I've seen people come and go. People make decisions. You gotta live with what you have. And, I've seen staff, when you're in your municipality, you want the best. You want the best thing for him. But if you tell him this, we want the best for the best cost for efficiency, that's what we're looking for. I've seen John's other work in different communities. I've seen that, his approach that way. I've seen him do that. I don't know, I think he did it here, but I wasn't part of that process.
Understood that.
All good discussion. So let's decide.
I'm back in here what you asked, Mort.
Yeah.
And this committee is, we're all making a lot of different decisions, different people. I just put an arrow on underneath, I'll get my glasses back on. Bid opening. After the bid opening is when I think we should still be involved, assisting the board, staff, everything is that we see things that, alternatives we're gonna look at, process, and if like a lot of things are saying, geez, this alternate's a bid. No, we shouldn't do that. This alternate's a bid. We would know, we're trying to get our hands on it as a committee. I think we should be involved to that point.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
John, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
In this budget that you have, is the furnishings included in this budget, or is that all extra?
It's a line item. And I think that's where everybody needs to understand. When someone says 15 million, the building doesn't cost that much. If you scroll up to the top, the building comes in. Look at the numbers there. Building costs and project costs are two big different pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear people in the community, first of all, sometimes they'll say, well, I built a building for $60 a square foot. Well, they might have put the building up, but then all the components and things. So I think that's an important piece to talk to when residents and citizens ask. The building's one number, the project's another. So, and a lot of times, a lot of times, 99% of the people, when they talk about their projects, they don't tell you everything all in. They tell you what I built the building for.
Yeah. Do we have a copy of this?
I'm looking for that too. Do we have a copy?
No,
I don't.
we can put a copy of.
I mean, this would be really good for us to
Really
see.
got- I guess we haven't.
That's what I'm looking for.
Instead of us being blind to know where these costs came from, just to know that's between 14 and 16 million. It'd be nice to see this.
Hey, putting draperies up and blind.
But yeah, if you scroll up to the top, the building itself is between 10 and 11.
Okay.
So I think that's the important piece to also know on this. These aren't tight numbers. These aren't numbers too. We're guaranteed it's going to be, what I'm saying is we're not guaranteed it's going to be 8. So our goal is to work as hard as we possibly can to make the most efficient, cost-effective building for everybody. And what our firm has always said, we truly look at this like it's our money. So I'm being honest when I say that. We work hard to do that. And as Dwayne said, you can reach out to other clients. Our goal is that we're fighting for the citizens too, to make sure we're not over-designing a building.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and I'm sure you are. You wouldn't be where you're at if you weren't. This is important for every one of us to see.
Yeah.
This is huge. It should have been something we got early on.
I mean, so often, yeah. So often we get into projects and the budget doesn't include an inclusive
I can
number.
sit here and look at this up for 5 minutes and I can't hardly see what the hell's up there. I want to stare at a piece of paper and look at the budget to run through it.
Okay, we'll have that for next time.
This is just a high level breakdown though, this is not.
Yeah, but it's good that we should see that. We should, Lauren.
If you're gonna present this, I think you should need to fill in what we paid for the land that we bought, the exact figure.
Well, the land cost is down here, so I guess that's what I was gonna say is, this estimate is about a year old before we bought the land. So there's probably some tweaks we need to do just to represent costs.
Because we have bought the land and we know how much we paid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Have it in every.
So let's update that and get that out, part of the next handout, for next time.
I know mechanicals are really a high portion of a building.
Well,
Yeah, they always are. And then I got stuck in a building where they did not have involvement with mechanicals and overtook the building that they needed. It was too big. in a government building, so but I know
Yeah,
John.
and I think, next meeting, I really want to go through this. When you see how simplistic the mechanical design is for the garage and the shops and all that, you will be surprised. So I really think you guys are going into a territory which is really helpful for everyone to understand. So we'll bring the engineer, we'll bring the drawings and high level, go over those, but I think you'll see that, our goal is to make sure this is a cost-effective building to build and it lasts long-term. We're not trying to create something that just gets you by for 10 years.
So in this budget, does this include the outbuildings, the salt shed and the?
Yeah, if you scroll down to the blue is all this, what we call specialty items.
Okay. That'd be great if we could get a copy of that
Okay,
updated.
that's easy
See,
enough.
you're looking at a package here then.
Yeah.
There's a package.
At least you can communicate what, I'm thinking that this is what we got in the building. I don't even know what we have for the rest of it.
Right.
I was asking if the furniture.
Yeah, furnishings is, I always.
Oh, that's-
Yeah,
That's expensive too.
very expensive.
So we'll have that for next time for sure.
Okay.
And again, thank you for bringing this stuff up. This is what we need to talk about as a committee.
Well,
I think-
sometimes conversations gotta be hard. I mean,
We've come a long way tonight, I think. So thank
they
you.
do.
Thank you.
Gary's good at that.
Next meeting will be next Tuesday. Take note of that. It's Tuesday, okay, 4:30. And I assume we're doing it on Tuesdays to get it away from a little bit of Thanksgiving, okay?
Right, that was my thought, I guess.
So,
Way to go.
any problems with Tuesday meeting versus Wednesday? I'm assuming most of you can be here.
Yeah, I might be gone. I might not be able to get back.
Okay, Steve will be excused. And that, we understand. So we'll have financials a little broken down a little bit here. What else do we need for next time? Anybody got any specific? Do we need to finish up?
Are you gonna bring back that first shot newsletter with the changes that we?
Yeah, we could, sure. But
And
there's
then,
not a lot of changes in there, but we'll bring it back.
and then also if you could bring back, you're gonna be working on those FAQs?
FAQs for sure.
Very sure, yeah.
And both sides,
Right.
answers and the questions,
Right.
okay? And Keith, you and I will get together with Brian and we'll start wordsmithing those, okay? Between now and next Tuesday.
Michael, I think one of the things there, and Keith, you might wanna also include the growth in the village in the last 3 years. How our assessment, this year alone, we have $30 million in growth so far.
Millie, you're talking about that?
How should we say, the stuff that hits the tax roll.
Right.
Value.
Assessed value.
Assessed value.
Assessed value, we've had, probably the last 3 years might be beneficial because every year we've had increases
Sure.
in the tens of millions increments.
Brings in tax revenue
Mm-hmm.
to offset increases to the existing tax base. Yep.
I could go with that.
That's a good point, but and that gets a little technical. People, you start talking about assessed valuation and people kind of get bleary eyed, but.
Oh, they glaze over, yes, but still,
That's an important part.
if they ask, well, this is how much value the village has increased in the last 3 years. I mean,
Yep.
when I came here, it was $600 million, and the first time we went over $1 billion, I darn near fell apart.
The other point of that, if you take $30 million and you turn around and you do a calculation that turns around and says that of that debt, this $30 million is gonna pick up X amount, which will reduce your taxes by X amount. That is an important number.
Yep.
And that can be brought in so that people understand that today we know it's gonna be this amount, but tomorrow, if we continue to grow, this is what's gonna have an effect upon your tax dollar on the road.
Yeah, and we'll do that in a simplistic fashion.
Right.
So people know that every year the tax base grows and that dilutes the cost
Right.
of the village operations if you're spreading the cost
Yeah,
over
right.
more valuation. People don't always think about it that way, but that's
If you're gonna
first
build it, you.
principle of local government.
Gotcha.
Is your valuation that you're working with. And we are a growing community every year. For the last, 20 years? Every year, we grow. And the tax base grows. So, those are sorts of maybe points that we can explain in a simplistic fashion to your neighbor who maybe never thought about this, but that's part of who we are. Okay, anything else for Gary?
John, do you have any, like comparisons or, any studies that you've worked with as far as like maintenance? That's a huge portion of this building is the maintenance and cranes and lifts and so on and so forth. Have you guys done any, cost analysis with any counties or municipalities?
What I can share is kind of the historical data we've collected from other facilities that we've been involved with over the 30 years, kind of not only showing them where their day-to-day utility cost goes, you know, it actually will come down typically. And then also, you know, the maintenance pieces that go into it, and or savings areas. So I can share those to you a high level, you know, if you're looking for a total audit, it's not that detailed.
No, I'm referencing maintenance equipment, like the cranes, like your manpower. Have you done any labor studies versus
Outsourcing.
having it to like a Scott's Repair or a
Outsourcing.
You mean, for example, like
truck equipment or whatever, something like that, that instead of having $500,000 or $1 million in square footage for the building and $1 million in equipment, to outsource or give it to one of our businesses in our community. That's what I was referencing. Have you ever done any studies with that of the cost savings or versus what your initial investment is? Granted, you don't have to pay tax, but we still have to have a section of the building allocated for that.
We haven't done those studies, but a lot of our clients have done them prior and have looked at outsourcing. And I can tell you the most that I've seen where they switch to go from outsourcing is any paint and body work and or squad cars and cruisers, that type of facility, vehicle. They'll outsource the PM, oil change maintenance, and a lot and tires. So historically, that's what you'll see cities, counties, or even, villages like outsource. Where other shops have done a little differently is they actually have turned their shop into an enterprise shop where smaller communities circumferencing you, maybe you're able to do fix a loader where the other community can't, that you guys actually charge them to do it. So some communities actually insource things more so for a revenue.
Let me jump in a little minute, Lauren. When we were with the county, Dwayne and I, we looked at that too, and very, very typically, county of our size and a municipality, say the size of Wausau, it's often not advantageous to contract out major repairs, for example.
Because of the size.
Because of the size.
Yes.
Well, and yeah, but we also can subcontract out for cost sharing, stuff like the salt supply. For example, in Marathon County, we buy all the salt for all the municipalities in the county. They buy it from us because we're big enough that we can get train load of the stuff. Where there's these smaller municipalities, they can't. So we buy the whole salt supply and we share it with other municipalities. So there are some cost sharing arrangements, but one of the ones that doesn't often pay off is contracting for repair work and major equipment work.
More, it depends on the size of the community.
I was gonna say, how many mechanics do you have?
How much piece of equipment you have.
Right.
You gotta determine when you wanna do in-house maintenance or you farm that out, like you contract it out. I wasn't around discussion here and I don't know how we got it set up. Is it gonna be all, Mike, you gotta tell me, you're doing all your repairs in-house or you farm a lot out?
We probably do 80% in-house and 20% we farm out.
Really?
I mean, a lot of it is, the quick, the guys are out working, hydraulic hose breaks.
Yep.
We go fix it.
Yep.
It's.
The leaf vac is a good example.
Yeah.
How many people are gonna be able to work on a leaf vac?
Yeah, and so this year we had some electrical issues with it and we'd get it up and going, but then we'd have to call, McQueen equipment up here because it was under warranty and sometimes it was 2 days before they could come up here and take a look at it.
That's one of the issues with outsourcing. You get in line with everybody else.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
Which is okay because they have to look after their customers that aren't municipal customers.
Right.
So you,
But also it could be the opposite effect too. Because when we go to Auto Select does all of our stuff, when we have a breakdown, they're there. You know, it can, so if you're giving a certain vendor, you're a priority.
Right.
So it can go the opposite way.
If you're snow plowing and it's in the middle of a big storm.
And that's negotiations when you're talking with.
Right, and basically, Gary, I think you're right. If that's something that, if the decision's been made that we're gonna do a lot of it in-house, or if you're gonna do a lot of it, you go to another outside vendor, you end up making a deal with, negotiating with the vendor, and the vendor is gonna be your number one vendor, and you can reduce your building size. That's some of the discussions.
And you could reduce the labor rate as well.
Labor rate also,
Yeah, you're gonna guarantee them this much work.
and you also reduce, never mind, municipal cost.
Well, this has all been good, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your,
I have one more comment.
okay, last comment.
And I maybe missed you guys, I looked through the bonding package, Keith, that was sent out. And I reviewed it quite extensively, that's what I look at quite extensively. And I noticed that the consultant has certain projections where this cost is going to go out and when they're gonna hit the tax roll. I noticed that we're getting hit earlier on with a higher tax portion on this billing, and I've always tried to look at the bonding projection, financial projections is, why not have the future people coming in paying that higher and interest rate on it? And then maybe there's a reason why he's got it set up. I see a little spot in there where it's a high amount on our tax rate in the, let's say, the fourth, fifth year in.
Right.
And I noticed it's lower at the end. I never had a financial discussion with you or anybody else that saw that. And I was kind of wondering if that could be massaged or not, where we get the future people coming and paying for it.
So what you're asking for is he can,
I can give you some answer on that.
That's fine.
The purpose of what, having it come the higher rate through 2024 was that then we would be able to lower our bond amount of money that we have outstanding at that point, and then also allows us then to go out and borrow for additional streets, et cetera, that we're going to be having.
You're looking at your overall package.
Overall package of what it's going to do for us as a village. Because we're going to continue to be updating streets and so on and so forth, and we have to have that availability to borrow without getting us in a situation where our bond rating changes or so.
So Bob is a member of the finance.
I know he is.
committee,
That's
well
why I
aware
know
of
that. That's why I kind of wanted to bring it up.
okay,
To expedite, I'll move to adjourn till next week.
Brian moves to adjourn, Brian Bushnell. Second, anyone?
And I really want to continue this discussion, but I think we need time next time to do it.
Okay,
I'll second it.
Wayne seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. See you all next Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
That one.